Hello, this is Miguel, the Movie Encyclopedia. Today I'll be discussing the fourth film of Warner Brothers and Legendary's cinematic monsterverse, Godzilla vs. Kong, starring Millie Bobby Brown, Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, and Alexander Skarsgård. Taking place a few years after Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the world is shocked when Godzilla attacks a robotics company unprovoked, which prompts Apex Technology and Monarch to use Kong to find a power source that can rival that of Godzilla. The result leads to an all-out battle between the two alpha monsters, Godzilla and Kong, with a definitive winner. Godzilla vs. Kong is definitely an improvement over Godzilla King of the Monsters and the first Godzilla, but it never quite reaches the heights of Kong Skull Island, which is still the strongest film in the cinematic monsterverse. This new film definitely delivers on its promise of an epic battle between the two most iconic movie monsters of all time. As I mentioned, Godzilla and King Kong, a real Eastern versus Western monster battle. The monster battles in this film are crazy huge and visually striking, although there's only really about 3 of them and then just a lot of Godzilla and Kong solo scenes, which is a little bit disappointing, but nonetheless, those scenes are incredibly amazing. They don't appear as frequently as I would have hoped, but when those battles aren't on screen, it's usually because the film is dealing with some much-needed exposition on the origins of these mighty creatures, with characters Godzilla and Kong front and center. We get to see a lot of these two monsters, so it isn't focused mainly on the human characters. However, they do pop up more frequently than I would have liked, and are just as underdeveloped and one-dimensional as they were in previous MonsterVerse movies. However, like the characters in Kong Skull Island, all the actors give strong performances and help break the tension of the non-stop world building and monster fights. Special shoutouts deserve to go to Brian Tyree Henry, who proves to be the comedic relief of this film, similar to what John C. Reilly did in Kong Skull Island, and Millie Bobby Brown, who did a shockingly good job of making her character more compelling with her confidence and badass attitude. She's been on a real streak lately of playing these teen badasses in movies like Enola Holmes, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and of course, Stranger Things, and I'm really digging it. The story is pretty much exactly what I described in the plot, so anyone coming into this movie for more than just watching two iconic monsters fighting will be deeply disappointed. But honestly, who would actually do that? If you are watching this movie, you came to see two of the most iconic monsters ever fight, and this movie delivers that in spades. Plus, it also does a good job of going into the Hollow Earth theory presented in Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters that helps explain where the monsters of Warner Brothers and Legendary's MonsterVerse came from. This is something that the last 2 movies of the MonsterVerse have been building up to, and I'm glad this movie finally got to explore this in more depth. And I also am glad that they finally got to the epic battle that they've been building up to also in the previous movies. I'm not exactly sure if Warner Brothers has any plans to continue the cinematic universe past Godzilla vs. Kong, but at least after this film, they have a sound foundation to build off of. So in conclusion, Godzilla vs. Kong is a sound entry in the MonsterVerse, even if it doesn't really rank up with the greatness of Kong Skull Island. But it's definitely a significant improvement over Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters. I just hope that in future films we get to see more world building in regards to the Hollow Earth theory, and most importantly, more monster fights, because, no one cares about the human characters. Really nobody cares about these human characters. We don't need them, and even though I did really enjoy the fights in this film, it did feel like there was too little given the amount of screen time this movie has on the human characters, and just focus more on the monster fights and have just more monster fights. I'm going to give Godzilla vs. Kong a 7.3 out of 10 stars. This was a good film, even if it wasn't great. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. I post videos whenever new movies come out. If you like watching this episode, make sure to follow my podcast, Miguel the Movie Encyclopedia Podcast, where I talk about movies, TV shows, and video games on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Also, make sure to follow me, Miguel the Movie Encyclopedia, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, where I post content daily about movies, including my podcast and YouTube reviews. Until my next video review or podcast episode, thank you for watching, and see you then.